Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today, I got my buddy Cory with me. Can you give me some more headphones, Trav? A little more headphones, or maybe just audio in general, a little higher level.
A little snare.
More cowbell.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
Man, good. We're doing good.
Oh my goodness, I got a couple of jokes for you.
Let's do it.
How did the kleptomaniac treat his condition? He took something for it.
Dang it. That's going to show everyone how simple-minded I am because I'm sitting there reaching and I'm like...
These jokes are so good. They're bad.
He stole the prescription.
Yeah. I got another good one, too. What do you call the sticky stuff inside trees? I need to know ASAP.
You didn't even give me a chance.
Well, it wasn't like...
No, I know. Yeah.
The punchline is that I need to know ASAP.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's up? How's it going?
I'm happy to be here. I'm glad I got a little invitation to come or invited
Cory's
myself.
hooked on your mic.
All right,
go.
sorry.
No,
I'm a rookie at this.
No. So everybody listening, this is Cory, a good buddy of mine. He owns a local sneaker shop. Two sneaker shops.
Yep, two now.
Two locations.
That's
this
right.
dude's doing big things.
I was just trying to spread.
How did you and I meet? I mean, I came into the store. I remember that.
Definitely sneaker related.
Yeah.
I want to say when you first came into the Bluffton store, very shortly after we had opened, and I believe it was
like 3 or 4 months after you opened.
Yeah, and I think it was either Sparger.
Posted something.
Yeah,
I saw it on social somewhere. Facebook. Somebody shared a Facebook or tagged you.
Yep.
It might have been Sparger.
I do remember it being kind of later in the evening towards the end of when my wife and I would have began closing down. I remember you came in with, I think, your oldest daughter with a ton of energy.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, you know what? I believe that's that Beeve guy. And sure enough, man, you put us on. Nothing but good energy. I think you walked away with a couple pairs that night.
Uh-huh.
And I want to...
I don't know how many, I walked away with a couple pairs every time I came.
For sure.
For a while.
Facts. And I want to say after that time, I believe you were either there the next day or very soon after that first time.
Yeah.
And it was cool, man.
I've slowed down since.
Oh, no.
I've been busy, one, and then two, I had to put my cash at other places.
Listen, I understand. Bitcoin supposedly is taking off. I don't know.
We'll talk about some of that stuff actually because I'm curious. Not so much related to that, but some other stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm a little bit of a sneakerhead myself. For those of you who don't know, and I'm into sneakers, and Cory brought me a nice gift. We'll open this in a second. This one, it's a 3C, so this is for the baby
for sure.
So I'll be excited to open that in a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. Here's the thing I remember. I remember having a hard time finding the store. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Do you remember what I said?
Yeah, you probably like said, man, you guys are terrible on Google or whatever, something like that.
I couldn't. So I remember looking up. I think your address was like in your Instagram profile,
Right?
If I remember right. And I drove past there, and I couldn't find you.
Yeah.
I was like, man, what the hell? And I was supposed to be out like running there and picking up groceries. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to swing by this place while I'm out.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it. That was the first day. And then.
And you chose not to come or?
So I left. I was like, I got to get home. I left.
Yeah.
So then a few days later, I was back in the area. I was like, let me go find where this dude's at. Because I was like, I gotta go check this out, you know?
Yeah.
And then I finally found it, but you had like no signage.
None.
You know, and that's what I was like. I'm like, dude. I'm like, what's? And you were like, are you Beef? You know, or whatever that conversation was. I was like, yeah. What's up, man? How's it going? You were like, I know you from somewhere, you know. And I was like, yeah, from you know. You're like, no, Instagram. That's what it is. So, anyways, then I was like, dude, you got to get some signage. I couldn't find you. Like, what are we doing here? How you got to tell the world you're here?
Yep.
You know, and unfortunately, it's just kind of the nature of like the location of your spot where you're kind of tucked away in the back of that complex upstairs. They don't really have signage out there for you. But
I'm sure you know, but like going through the town and submitting, you know, having to submit permits for, you know, a shop at the movie theater. You know, I get it, but it was just part of the deal. But no, to be honest, getting that small place that you first came into, that was a huge step for us because it was something, you know, I was just shooting from the hip. I was fully employed, but I was reselling shoes on the side, which I had done for a long time. Yeah. And we negotiated with that specific store with the owner for I think 4 or 5 months. It used to be like a cookie shop.
Is that what it was?
It was a cookie shop, yeah. And of course, I don't know if you remember, but at one point, the movie theater, the whole center was, doing okay. There was a candy store, the cookie shop that we took over. But I just remember going home to my wife one day. I knew that I had about 300 to 400 pairs upstairs just sitting there, and she knew that I was preparing for something kind of big.
Not like the end of the world.
Well, no. Yeah. Doomsday sneaker prepping. I don't know. And she was like, okay, well, listen, we can look at places. And I found that one. I said, you know what? This makes perfect sense. The thing about, reselling sneakers, obviously not being a retailer, but creating that little store, some of the best stories about sneakers come from people knowing where that place is. Like if the same concept. It doesn't matter what city you're in.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw for that small place. And we went from it. Like I said, we negotiated for like 6 months. I was nervous to sign a lease,
a 3-year lease or something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. With no idea of what that really meant.
Especially still a side hustle. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your past, because you're a Marine, you were a cop, you were a school teacher, now you own sneaker stores. Like,
that's right.
Take us back a little bit, kind of brief overview of your history, your past.
Yeah. So
where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Big city.
I didn't know that.
I was born just outside of Cocoa Beach, I was born in Melbourne, Florida. And we quickly moved to Orlando, literally. Any Disney joke you have, you can insert it. It's part of the deal. And that was it. We lived right in the UCF area. Went to elementary, middle, high school there. It was my junior year going into my senior year. I didn't exactly have a bunch of scholarship offers. I wasn't a terribly good student. Kind of found myself I got out of sports a little bit and didn't have much of a direction. A buddy of mine, I ended up moving in with this guy, but he had hit me up the beginning of our senior year, and it was kind of one of those things like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing when we graduate? I was like, man, we just started our senior year. I
haven't thought that far ahead.
I don't even know how to spell graduate yet. I don't know. And I don't know if it's going to happen. Seriously. Yeah. And he was like, well, I've already depped into the Marine Corps. I was like, oh, cool. Well, I don't even know what that is. And a little bit. He was like, I told him, I was like, well, I'm going to speak to an Army recruiter. And he was like, don't be come meet my recruiter. And I swear you'll love him. I was like, okay. So you're an idiot. And I'm going to be the idiot number 2. and that's how it went. He introduced me to his recruiter. And of course his recruiter's like, yeah, 2 for 1. And man, that's how it was.
You know what's funny? That's almost similar to Dakota's story, Dakota Mayer. He's like, he was in the school cafeteria and they had like recruiter thing going on. And this guy was like, man, you couldn't cut it as a Marine. And that was it. He's like, challenge accepted, sign me up.
God.
And he's like, I didn't even know what it was. And here he is like, the guy.
Yeah.
So funny.
Internet had barely just come and for access to me. So I, Googled us or asked Jeeves a couple of things.
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, seriously. You remember?
Barely. I would have never ever said that if you asked me about early internet. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's how you date yourself like that.
Yeah, I'm old. You were about to get into the story, but yeah. We sat down with the recruiter, and the recruiter, I told this to my wife the other day. The recruiter had like these little placards, like 18 little placards, and we're sitting like this, and he hands me them, and he was like, I want you to go through these, and I want you to put them in order of most important to you to least important. And I hold them, and like the first one says like financial stability. The second one says like travel the world. And I was like, bro, we don't have to do this. Like, I was like, listen, I'm pretty much a gimme, dude. I was like, I was set on the Army, but like my buddy's going to the Marine Corps. Let's just do it. Just tell me what I need to do. Like, honestly, And he's like, okay, easy. We'll get you to take the ASVAB. You'll take the ASVAB on Saturday. Can you do it? I said, sure, let's do it. Apparently I go and I crush it. I do I destroy the test supposedly.
Really?
Yeah. He hits me up like 2 weeks after when the results come in. He was like, hey, I need to see you in my office, whatever the case. So my mom or someone takes me there. We sit down and he was like, here's the deal. He's like, you can essentially do whatever you want to do.
Really?
Yeah. The recruiter didn't pitch me on like, oh, well, we need an NBC, like a chemical biological warfare specialist. You know how they have to plug stuff?
Yeah.
He was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, and this was 2004.
Shit was hot.
Right. The war obviously had
heavy.
just, yeah. And I was like, to be honest with you, I believe in going big or going home is my little skateboarding motto when I was a kid at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I need to do to make sure that I go see combat, that I go fight?
I want to go kick in some doors.
Yeah, I do want to fight. And he's like, okay, even easier. An infantry contract is pretty easy to get right now. He's like, what do you want to do in the infantry? And I was like, well, I don't just want to be some basic guy. He's like, well, Sean, your buddy, he signed up for security forces, and I've got him getting possibly presidential presidential detail, which means you could have ended up at like Camp David or somewhere in DC doing something on like security guard level.
Yeah.
I wasn't dead set on it, but I knew that that's where he was going, and I was like, okay, well maybe I can, ride the coattail. Yeah. He's like, okay, we'll do that, and he signed me up, and it ended up being like, it was called Yankee White, and it would have been in that field, security forces or with the president or somewhere in that realm of things, right? So I fell for it. I'm like, yeah, awesome, dress blues. I heard chicks love that, whatever. And that was it. The crazy thing, what happened, where my path, where it changed for me, is my buddy Sean, the one who joined. I had moved in with him because we were set, like this is it. Well, his ship date to Parris Island was June 1st, 2005. Mine was 3 months after his. So he would have gone to boot camp before me. I would have obviously
been separated.
Correct. Yeah. So I realized it, and the writing was on the wall. And like I said, I was living with him at the time because that's the decision we made. And I hit up the recruiter and I said, hey man, what do we got to do to get me on the same bus with Sean, get us both landing on Parris Island at the same time? And he was like, man, I'll be honest with you. I can get you in. You're going to lose your guaranteed job. And I said, okay, whatever. The war's going on. I'll still find my way there. And he was like, I'm pretty sure you'll end up with you'll be infantry like you want, but you'll be an open contract infantry. And that's kind of what happened. It set me back a little bit. I went to boot camp with him. We crushed it. 12 weeks, Parris Island, really not a big deal. And
Parris
then,
Island.
yeah. And then the School of Infantry.
And here you are back in this area.
I'm here. Yeah. It's crazy. Sand fleas or whatever you call them.
Sand gnats.
Yeah. Sand gnats.
Right.
Yeah. So we went to the School of Infantry. He went his way because he had his locked on job, and I was going to become what is called an 0311, just a basic infantry rifleman, which the Marine Corps needs those guys.
Especially then.
Yeah, something happens.
Take all you can get.
That's right. The boots on the deck. That's who goes 11s. And I didn't necessarily want to do that. I wanted to be, I felt like I was better than that. I felt like I was more intelligent than just being kind of on that level. And so they came out and they said, hey, after 3 weeks at SOI, they break you down into where you'll become an 0311. If you had a contract to go like to a weapons MOS, such as being a machine gunner, becoming a tow gunner, or an assaultman or a mortarman, if you had that contract, those guys went that way. Well, based on like numbers, each class might have a few open seats. So they came out like the third week and they said, hey, if you want to attempt to be in one of these specialized kind of MOSs, one, you have to qualify for it, but two, you have to write like a 5-page essay on why you think you even deserve to go to an upper level course, right? And this is funny, believe it or not. I put all of my future in the hands of a senior, like enlisted kid. He was like a corporal who was leaving an MOS to become an infantry guy, right? I think probably because he just wanted to be a part of the war that was going on, and he was like motor T. He saw what I was doing, and I'm 18. I'm a private. I know nothing about nothing, right? And he sees me. He's like, "What are you writing?" I was like, "I got to write this essay. I really want to become a tow gunner." And he was like, "Well, what are you going to say?" And I was like, for me, I'm like, "Oh, I think that you should choose me because, I can be
Blah,
one."
blah, blah.
Yeah. He goes, "Give me that thing." He read what I wrote. And of course he was like, "No." And he took it. He ripped up mine, got rid of it. He wrote something. He folded it up and he said, "That's it." I was like, "Well, what'd you write? This is literally my future. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm telling you." And he's like, "You'll be fine." Yeah, I swear. And I don't even know the guy. Like, we had...
You just kind of run into him.
Yeah. And so we go on the weekend, come that Monday morning back to, like, we have to be in formation and stuff. And they break us down. Like, okay, here's the transition. And guy, senior enlisted calls my name. He's like, "Hey, Private Pennington, you're gonna be in the tow gunners class." And I lost it, man. I was so pumped. And
It worked.
Yeah. And I was like, I went and asked him, I said, "What did you put in that letter to get me in?" And he was like, "Don't worry about it." So who knows?
You never read it. You
No, he never told me. So I swear to God. So like my whole future was shaped
from this dude.
Yeah, writing a ghost letter. Yeah. So
That's
then
crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if he just had like an in and he's like, "Yo, get this kid in the class. Whatever my name is."
Yeah.
Signs it and just like.
And well, keep in mind, I'm still, like I said, I'm 18. I'm a private. I have zero idea about anything.
No clue how it works.
No. Yeah. Like when you hear machine gunner, you think, yeah, machine gunners, they're on the top of the turret getting shot at, shooting back, whatever the case. And then there was, like I said, tow gunner. And they're like, I was like, "What the hell is a tow gunner?" And they said, "Oh, well, you just shoot at tanks." And I said, from a tank?" And they're like, "No, idiot. That's tankers have their own thing. This is infantry." And I'm like, "Okay, so I'm going to be going after a tank by myself? Like, what's happening?" They're like, "No, you can be turret mounted or ground mounted." I'm like, "Oh, from a Humvee, I'm shooting at a tank? Something's not adding something's not adding up here." And obviously, that was it. I go through this long, extensive course on identifying threat enemy tanks. And I'm like, "Well, shit, like, are they fighting tanks in Fallujah right now? It's 2005. What's happening? I don't get it." And like, "Oh, it's just, conventional warfare." I'm like, "Yeah, but we're fighting an insurgency. So again, what's going on here?" So needless to say, I become a tow gunner.
And you brought me a tow missile today?
I did. Tow gun. Yeah, let me grab it.
Yeah, grab that thing. Teach me about it. Right there, it's fine. We can pick it up. We can do whatever. He brought this to me as a gift today too, along with these sneakers.
Yeah, heck yeah. So hopefully you find somewhere to hang that thing. But
yeah.
So needless to say, tow stands for tube launched, optically tracked, wired to command link guided missile system. Okay, so my job was I was an anti-tank missileman fighting no tanks, right? So this thing, it's just crazy because you think about it, like
it's just like that's a hollow tube.
Yeah,
the missile launches from that. Correct.
Yep. So this tube obviously would sit down into the system itself. The system has it's guided. You're literally maneuvering the whole thing. When you acquire a target and you kind of lock onto the target and you choose to fire, obviously the missile would eject and take off, right? Well, the crazy thing people don't realize is when it does take off, you have to control it all the way until it impacts to the tank or whatever. Yeah.
Your target is.
Yeah, so it definitely is like a
interesting,
like a video game for sure.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. They think it's kind of like self-propelled. It does its own thing. No, you literally fire and then you're watching.
Self-propelled, but it's not self-guided.
Right, my bad. Yeah. I'm not propelling.
Right.
Yeah. So that ended up being my MOS, and I just never got a chance to do it in combat because we weren't
tanks.
Yeah. So then basically went from being a tow gunner to then picking up the MOS of a machine gunner, which is what I did for majority of the 8 years that I was in. That's it.
What were you carrying? 240?
So, well, when we deployed,
Yeah.
well, we traveled in 4 vehicle convoys, doing whatever was on the card for the day. And typically, so we had a Mark 19 on one truck, a 50 on a truck, and then 2 240s. My first deployment, I was on a Mark 19. And actually, I pretty much carried a Mark for the most of the time. Yeah. Which is a rocket, grenade launcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
Is there any like 1 or 2 standout moments in that was like this crazy situation, close call, or anything? Just like 1 or 2.
Well, it was a reality check for me, because the way for me deploying, the way it all worked when I went to combat, I graduated from the School of Infantry, mind you, as an anti-tank missileman, right? Of all of our buddies, everyone that in our whole company, like a lot of my friends were getting orders to like Hawaii, California. People even got orders directly like to Japan. Well, I was in North Carolina, which is where the School of Infantry is, right next to Camp Lejeune, and they came out and my orders just read Camp Lejeune. And so of all my buddies, like when you join the Marine Corps, like that's what they talk about, traveling, whatever. And I was like, I'm literally going
right next the store.
10 minutes up the road. And so I was like, I'm still, at this point, I'm confused. I have orders that read, my first unit was a actual tank battalion, 2nd Tank Battalion. And again, I'm an infantry guy, so I'm just still lost. So there's like 16 of us that get orders to that specific unit. They put us on a bus. It's a Friday. We get to Camp Lejeune, and we get checked in. They put us in like a holding little kind of like hotel in order for us to go to our unit Monday. We show up to our unit Monday, and the battalion commander comes in while we're doing like our little check-in process, and he was like, "Hey, welcome guys. You're the only like kind of boot drop that we're getting for this next deployment." And of course we're like, well, what is that? What does next deployment mean? And he was like, welcome to the unit, but you need to tell your families that we're leaving in March, or like us, we were going in March. So this was November. 18-year-old, newly graduated infantry guy. We're going to combat like immediately.
A couple months.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, this is it. Like, I guess this is exactly
what I signed up for.
Yeah. It's like mind blowing, honestly. And again, it's all based on because I don't know anything, and I'm just going on this preconceived notion of what it means to be a Marine or whatever the case. But I'm living it, And sure enough, that was it. We barely got time to train in the field, and we literally were in Fallujah in early 2006. So a couple years after the war had started, but now it transitioned into a full-fledged kind of insurgency. And it gets even crazier. We fly into Kuwait. From Kuwait, we fly into a place called TQ. From TQ, we convoy into and through the city of Fallujah in the middle of the night.
Were you just like...
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, like psychologically, not like that's 6 to 8 months of just like fast, like crazy.
Fast track
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the other side of the world in combat now.
Yeah, and it does make sense.
Crazy.
They
what did your
needed.
parents think about all this? Were they like, "Are you crazy? You signed up for the what?"
Yeah, when I told my mom, because I was only 17, and when I went to her, I said, "Listen, I've decided I'm going to be a Marine. I need you to come down to the recruiting office, and I need you to either sign the papers now, or when I turn 18, I'm going to sign them anyways. So you should probably just do it now, so you can kind of..." Yeah, I kind of forced my position, but I was like, "Look, I've decided it. I need to get this ball rolling, so it's probably easier if you just go ahead and do it." And she, of course, she was like, "Oh,
are you sure, honey?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think she knew that I was serious.
Anybody else in your family in the military?
Like my uncles, my grandfather was, but no one of my age, no cousins. Yeah. Mm-mm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how in the world? All right, so you come back, you do 8 years, you get out,
Yeah,
and you become a cop.
I did.
Okay.
I became a cop first. I was actually going to school to finish my bachelor's at USCB, believe it or not. which sucked.
How did you end up back here?
We had a house in Bluffton that I had bought in like 2007, and because I had gotten a chance to in the middle of that 8 years, I had taken orders to come here, and it was supposed to be for like a 3-year deal, but I had only gotten like 1 year here, and it was supposed to be like my break from deploying, because in 06 I went to Fallujah, came home. 07 I went back to Fallujah, came home. I re-enlisted because they were offering crazy money, and we weren't prepared at the time to just walk away, and I knew that, and I said, screw it, I'll take this check, and they're gonna send me to Parris Island. I don't know what I'm gonna do there because it's not gonna be a drill instructor. And I get there and I just kind of get tossed around. I was like, I worked with like the MPs for a little bit. It was just kind of just a joke, really.
Got it.
And then I was only there for like a year, and I got orders right back to North Carolina just because there was other stuff kicking up.
And you just bought a house.
Yeah. And
did you rent it out for a while?
We did rent it out for a while, and if you remember, 07 obviously was pretty tough on the housing market. So I remember we got our first house for relatively low, but it's also, I remember it being our only budget, being young in the Marine Corps.
They had good finance options for the military then, didn't they? Didn't they have some really good
and that first time home buyer stuff, I jumped all over that, man. I must have got some new golf clubs, a couple guns.
What's crazy? I mean, you and I bought houses right around the same time. I bought my first house. Shoot, it must have been 2006 or something.
Yeah,
here in Bluffton, and it was the same thing. First time home buyer program, 100% finance, no money down, all this stuff, and I was like, I could just buy a house.
Pretty easy, yeah.
Like nowadays, it's like 20% down. I think they're bringing back some first time stuff, but anyways, it was really cool because you and I were fortunate enough to be able to buy a house then, and then the market's increased, and I made a few bucks on that, and it's it's a smart early move.
Oh, for sure.
You can buy right.
Yep.
Which I think will try to play into the rest of your life now, is if you can buy right, right?
Something like that. Yeah. Buy low, sell high is the goal for everything, I would say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you become a cop. What did you do with the police department for a while?
Yeah, so I ended up being a police officer with the town of Bluffton here, obviously. I did that for, I want to say, upwards of 4 years. Got the opportunity to go into the school to be like a resource officer. I was filling in for somebody. Mm-hmm. And that was even more strange because I went to do that. And the first day I showed up, the principal was like, "Hey, thanks for coming and filling in, whatever. He was like, do you have your bachelor's degree?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "How long you been a cop?" I was like, "I think like 4 years." He was like, "Hey, do you want to teach here?" I said, "Well, bro, teach what?" And he was like, "Well, we have a law program, and it sounds like you qualify for it." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "You need to look at the pay chart, see if it makes sense for you." And that was on like a Friday. I went and now Googled.
We've moved on from ads.
Right. Yeah. I said so like making the transition from police officer to teacher. And of course there's a ton of information. But for the state, did a lot of research, and there's like a career and technology program within the state where you basically can leave your profession to essentially go teach your profession. And it's a 2-teacher program at the school that I was at. And so I quickly got into it. I knew that I was not going to be a long-term police officer. I just
that
didn't.
Was bridging the gap.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
It was familiar because you went from the military to law enforcement, so it's sort of the same. Got it.
And I always felt that from day one that this was not, that being a police officer was not in the cards for me long term. So I tried the teaching thing too. I ended up doing that for 4 years, and I really did enjoy it, teaching high school law to students who probably need to know it the most. I kind of taught them, obviously what's illegal, not illegal.
In what terms, what aspects, like what type of law was it? Did it run the gamut? Like you have a curriculum that covered all types of different law, or was it focused on very specific?
Well, the good thing about it is I really did have complete autonomy on what I taught and how I chose to teach it. There was very little standards like in reference to like what you had to teach. So I kind of did my own thing. We created our own lesson plans, but it was more in the concept of like, so there's an intro to law class, and that's kind of just teaching kids the overall aspects of like mostly it is law enforcement, trying to prep them to choose their career. So if you take intro to law, you're going to learn a lot about the basic like South Carolina state law.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also going to, at the time, I would have taught like what it meant to become a police officer, and like in the second part of the program and the third part of the program. If you made it to the third part, that meant that you obviously really liked the course, and now as a senior, you believe that there's a chance you would pursue a career in law enforcement.
Was it law enforcement, or it could be maybe it gave him enough interest to, like, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to take other career paths that kind of revolve around law.
Yeah.
Right.
I tried to teach that way. I tried to teach like a segment of public safety. EMT, firefighter, we covered that as well. And then yes, we did cover lawyer. We did cover like corrections, because not everyone there's hundreds of different jobs you can do within the field of law enforcement. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So did that for 4 years, but it was in that time that while teaching, I decided to open that first store location.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were still teaching when I met you.
Yep.
You finally made this jump, but
yeah.
Cool. Well, that's the backstory.
Man, sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. It's exciting. I mean, I'm learning more about you. And I've known you for, I don't know, a year and a half.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to hear more of the story. Hopefully people listening enjoy that. Let's talk about some shoes. Let's talk about sneakers. Let's talk about, you talk about buy low, sell high. That's the name of your business.
That's
so
it.
You resell popular, hyped sneakers.
Yeah.
It's not like Foot Locker where you have an account with Nike and all the stuff. Like, kind of give us this business model, and then kind of let's deep dive into like the sneaker culture and help people who maybe don't understand it, like understand it, and why you walk into a store and a pair of sneakers is like $600, $700, $2,500.
Right.
And people are like, these are a pair of Jordans that I can go get Foot Locker for like $150. Why are these $600?
Well, pre-COVID, that kind of was the thing. If there was a Jordan release, which at this point there's one almost every Saturday, right? It used to be the case, and again, we're talking maybe 4 years ago, right? A specific Jordan might come out, and we're talking only OG, so Jordan 1 through essentially 14s, right? Which are the best Jordans ever made. Jordan wore him himself, and now they retro them all the time. They'll retro colorways that he would have worn, and then they also do obviously newer things to that specific silhouette. So, like I said, 3-4 years ago, a shoe might have come out and not even sold out. And during that time, I was in the position to where I wanted to get as many as possible, and I could do it on a good Saturday. My wife and I would hit the mall up, or several malls, and we could come away with maybe 15, 20 pairs of a specific release. At the time, well, now that's almost unheard of. You've got to have so many different hands in the basket, which is why a lot of other people run bots to acquire shoes. But no, I used to put in the actual legwork. If I couldn't get the number of pairs I was seeking that day for retail, I would be literally trying to buy people's pairs as they were walking out of Foot Locker. And that was for small margins. Like a Jordan 1 at the time was not exactly crushing it, but a Jordan 1 was selling for like $170, and then maybe reselling for, let's say, $210, $220 on average. So for me, that, and even still to this day, that's good margins for me. If I can, quick flip, if I can just keep that snowball building to where I'm growing in inventory, but I'm also seeing the return on investment, that's it. Fast forward to now, or even when COVID, first came, and Last Dance came on, it's put sneakers probably at their highest level of popularity.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and then there's, let's take a step back too. Let's really try to digest and understand what makes certain sneakers more desirable, more valuable, etc. Right? It's the collaboration of generally it's almost always the collaboration these days, right? Like certain colorways that are the nostalgic Chicago Jordan 1, that it was the red and white.
Right.
Like everyone when they think Jordan 1, and you're like, oh, Michael Jordan, like that's the shoe you see in your head, right? So like those have value. I've got a pair of them in the other room.
Oh, I saw them.
I bought from you.
Oh, and the unions on your feet now.
Yeah.
So when those first came out, people were getting those for, I remember street value was like $600 to $800.
Yeah.
brand new. You can't get that shoe now, size 10, for less than, I would guess, three grand. I haven't checked them out recently, but I know that's
stupid. It's crazy.
Correct.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's certain collaborations. Yeah, no. But what makes the Union so special? Is it just because of the mix of colors and that it was a limited quantity available? It's a supply and demand game.
Of course, limited. It's all based on street cred. That company specifically gets a lot of respect on the West Coast. This was one of their first ones. And honestly, they crushed it. This specific shoe and the blue toe, because they made 2 of these, they destroyed it because they got the chance to essentially modify a pair that MJ wore. And like you said, it does have the hints of the red, the white, and the black, which automatically makes it super exclusive because it's just that Chicago type
Colorways,
deal.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then
the materials used on this thing this is a really
just crazy good leather.
Nice.
And they were one of the first ones to really start using kind of this sail color, making it look aged. Man, it's such a good shoe. This is one of my favorite shoes. I've had it and I got rid of them. I'm an idiot. But yeah, I love this shoe. And like I said, now it's worth so much.
Yeah.
So most, like I said, on release day, like $800. And at the time, people were like, well, that's nuts. We're not paying that. But those are only going to go up in value. And it's just, I think it's the same idea of a LeBron James rookie card or
it's just like baseball cards.
Yeah.
It's like a lot comic books, any of that kind of stuff that it's like the exclusive thing, the supply and demand, the collaboration with the artist, because you got let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Dude,
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot. So I've only read headlines and heard things about this whole concert thing. So Travis Scott has a how many different,
at this point he's got
different pairs?
I would guess he's somewhere around 15 collaborations that he's gotten to do with Nike and Jordan.
And I'm not familiar. Like I'm familiar with the brown and tan and brown and white with the reverse swoosh and that's probably the more popular one that people.
Yep. So he's gotten to do 2 1 highs. He's done several 1 lows. He's got some Jordan 4s, 6s for sure. And now, like you said, with all that this is going on with him, we don't know.
Yeah. So for those who aren't maybe aware of a lot of it, so Travis Scott is a rapper. They had a big concert. A 10-year-old, was it a girl? I don't even know. I kind of headlined. A 10-year-old was killed in the crowd.
Well, it was a boy. He was with his dad at this concert that he took him. And he didn't make it. He got trampled. Yeah,
in this crazy.
On top of from what I've heard now, a total of 10 people have officially lost their lives from the situation, and it has altered Nike's relationship with Travis right now. They had pairs that were supposed to come out this week. He had some Air Max 1s that they collabed together. And now even on like the sneakers app, it says due to what's going on, it's gonna delay. And I think Nike and Jordan Brand will do a good job of, I guess,
figuring that.
Yeah,
they'll mitigate their
right, whatever keeps them safe. But we live in a cancel culture, and that's what they're trying to do with it. I have mixed emotions.
I don't know. Again, I've read headlines. Maybe you can shed some light on it. Sounds like I'm sure you followed it very closely because of the connection with sneakers.
Yeah.
I have to imagine, like, what is that going to do to the value of the current sneakers that are out there? Are people not going to care, or because they were exclusive and they're still valuable, or is it like people are going to take and burn them?
The beauty behind that is this could double the value of his specific shoes, because people are still going to be Travis Scott fans. That's not going to go away if the loyalty that's there for him, and I get it. They could easily tank, or they could maybe even triple in value. You just don't know. And I'd like to think, or I tend to think, that a shoe that originally had a bunch of prestige behind it, a really, really hype release where they said, like, yes, this is going to be $1,000 pair. Very rarely do you see that tank, like those Unions, for example. Mm-hmm. There's no reason you'll never see those
dropping.
No way,
dramatically.
Nope.
At least
there's no way.
They'll fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah,
a few $100 here and there, or whatever.
As does everything else, like the
stock market. It's like a stock market.
$4 of gas. Supply and demand.
I don't know how I feel about the whole Travis Scott thing. I mean, obviously it's a tragedy no matter how you
Right.
slice it up. I mean, it shouldn't have happened. It's unfortunate that it happened. The 10-year-old, was that the only child that died?
I believe so. I don't want to speculate.
I don't know what a 10-year-old's doing there to begin with.
That's kind of
like, that was my first, was like, why is there a 10-year-old at this event?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've been to several music festivals, and even as a grown man, you have no idea what can happen. I mean, people are all up on you the whole time. Mm-hmm. And the thing about Travis Scott is he's a performer. He literally
he hypes it up.
Yeah, he that's what he's really good at. And
yeah, he was crowd surfing, like stirring it up in a way. Not to say it's but yeah, I just don't know what a 10-year-old was doing there.
And on top of that, like to govern that, how are you going to fix that? Hey, you can have a concert, but you got to be on like a 7. You can't be all the way turned up to 10. Well,
or 11.
Yeah, right. Whatever that was.
Thing up to 11.
Yeah, no, I mean, how are you going to govern that? You're going to start building facilities to where people are standing kind of in their own little,
social distance in the concert.
Yeah, good luck, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a tough thing to talk about. Hopefully, I'm sure there'll be reparations. I would hope so, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have anything to say about it because I'm not educated enough on it. But I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on it and how that event would affect the sneakers and affect maybe inventory you have in the store. Like, oh, great, I've got several pairs of these that I paid a bunch of money for that are now worth nothing, or like you said, they're going to double or triple in value because of whatever.
Well, luckily we're not in that position to where either one of those situations will affect us too bad. But yeah, it's good that not only do we pay attention, but a lot of people coming in the store, and even this week people have been like, oh my God, are you paying attention? What do you think's going to happen? So it is good that there's a dialogue there, and it's I can only speculate on my side. Yeah.
It's so interesting. The other side of it too is we were talking about like collectibles and things, you buying things sort of anticipating a higher value.
Right.
Is that a game that you play too? You like, I think these are going to be worth, because some of them you don't, you buy them and you think they're going to be a thing, and then they're kind of like, no one really cares.
Yeah, I do that because I just, if you look back, and I could pick out any specific shoe and look and think 2 years ago, this was like a shoe that nobody wanted because there was nobody really gassing it up. But the thing about it is, it doesn't matter, because when 2 years goes by and that shoe is next to impossible to find, the value, it's still going to increase. So like even what I call bricks, from 2 years ago, now if I go and look on GOAT or StockX and they're selling for, $100 above retail. Now, on an economic standpoint, we can argue all day, does it make sense to buy something to hold to make whatever? You're right.
Make $100 2 years later.
Well, correct. And for me, that's what I'm choosing to do as a now profession. I'm trying to, one, provide a service for the community that didn't have this to begin with. Savannah never had a sneaker store like this, and obviously the Low Country, Bluffton, Hilton Head has never. So for me, I just wanted to provide a service, and obviously also be able to feed my family based on selling shoes. Right? It's fun to do based on the last professions that we just talked about.
Yeah. Totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Have you always been into sneakers? Is that like, or was that something you're like, you just saw that there was like a money to be made in this thing, and then you became interested in it? Or were you like, always loved shoes, and I can make money with this? Is hell yeah.
Well, from the jump, like even in my earlier, like in middle school, high school, I remember always telling my mom, and we weren't, we were never financially set by any means. I would always tell her, like, look, I'm cool. Like if I have to wear Kmart clothes or whatever the case, I'm down. But can I get a good, like, I got to have some good pair of shoes, because that's what everyone sees. And then depending on, and that's why I tell everyone, just be who you are, wear what you want to wear. And if you're in a situation where you don't have the most money to have all these expensive clothes, you can still look good. You can make yourself look good. If you feel good, same thing. But yeah, the shoes always mattered to me, because it was the first thing, everyone makes shoe contact before eye contact. It's just, that's who we are. That's our human nature. So I always had to have a good pair of shoes, and it's just been that way ever since.
You said something a second ago that was, no one's gassing up certain sneakers. And it's funny because, like you said, like there could be a shoe that nobody cared about, nobody wanted, and then suddenly Justin Timberlake wears them on stage, and the next day that shoe's worth all the money.
That's it. Yeah. And
it's game over.
Yep.
It's insane.
And obviously the more like I guess prestige that celebrity is, the higher it does
higher
it.
value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable how that works.
Yep.
I couldn't even like, I've always been into shoes. I've always had a lot of shoes. But I've never been into, I would have never considered myself a sneakerhead until just before I met you, to be honest. Like I had just kind of gotten into some of this culture, and that's why I was like, yo, there's a fucking store in Bluffton now. Like, hell yeah. So, and then I started buying more stuff. I didn't really have a lot of, these types of sneakers before that. I just always like, oh, I like those pair of shoes, I'm gonna buy them. Oh, I like these pair of shoes, I'm gonna buy them. And there's some, I got a pair of Pumas in there. I certainly shouldn't have worn as hard as I did. They're like, the soles are falling off. They're so cool.
They're worth a ton of money.
I think so. You can't. They were like a collaboration with an artist.
Yeah,
and they're very interesting. And they're pink and blue and yellow and crazy colors. They look like they came from Blue's Clues. They got like these fat marker lines around the outside.
Crazy.
And I found them in Charleston at the Puma store downtown one time. I'm like, yo, these are cool. These are fun. I like weird, funky stuff, And
but see, that's the thing, that like, that's nostalgia. You literally can tell me the scenario of when and where you found that pair, and that for whatever reason, that pair of shoes, it spoke to you. I know that sounds crazy, but that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bizarre. So anyways, I still have them. They're in my office over here right now. And now I'm trying to preserve them because I'm like, I don't want to ruin, like I have a soft spot for these shoes.
There you go.
And I looked them up. I was like, can I just like buy another pair? And that's when I realized how like rare they were. I was like, oh,
and they're exclusive.
I'm just not getting another pair of these.
Yep. And
so interesting.
Yeah. So like, I guess a good example for what you're saying, a celebrity really getting something to take off. So Dunks have obviously been around for a long time. SB Dunks came to the show a little bit later when skaters for Nike were like, hey,
these are great skate shoes.
Yeah, like, hey, Nike keeps bringing them in. Like, hey, can you help us create a shoe? And like, they weren't getting anywhere until some skaters were like, look, do we skate those Dunks? And Nike was like, you know what? We hear what you're saying. We're gonna keep the same platform, but now we're gonna make it an SB Dunk. And then
SB stands for skateboarding.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine. I'm just educating them.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
So early 2000s, they started doing like some of the craziest, like dopest colorways, and nobody really cares about them other than skaters. And skaters are skating these crazy shoes, right? So fast forward, still people aren't really that into SBs until just like you mentioned, Travis Scott. Travis Scott manages to start wearing these older, maybe these 15, 20-year-old SB Dunks. And they had no value. You could, like people did have them listed on like, again, StockX or GOAT, but there was no value there. Whoever was holding that shoe was maybe making like maybe a 10% return on investment. And then all of a sudden, like you're seeing $1,000 SB Dunks, $2,000 SB Dunks of like the older ones. And it just
out of nowhere.
Correct. And it went from there. And now, again, those things will never come down.
It's insane to me.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. There was a Complex did a closet episode. What's the series they do? That's the closet thing.
Yeah, they have a closet one where the celebrity actually allows them to come into their house, and then they kind of just show
tour
off
their closet and talk about the sneakers and the stories behind them. It was like Rodriguez or something. The
Paul Rodriguez. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like after the episode, he's like, hey, I brought in this container to his house. I think that was him. Right? He brings a shipping container to his house and opens it up, and it's like every pair of Dunks he ever wore.
Jesus.
I mean, it was like he's like, and these are the ones I didn't throw away. Like, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That someone like, did he keep all I mean, these are shoes that like are trash. Like the toe is just ripped out of him from, skating and whatever.
Yeah.
And he still has them. Like most people toss those in the trash, but like he's got a shipping container full of these things.
Nuts.
Like, did he have some foresight of like, these are going to be worth something one day? Like, I just can't get rid of these. They're special to me. Some people just love shoes. Like, I like shoes. Like, like most people would probably throw away the sneakers that I love so much in there, the Pumas.
Yeah.
But I haven't, because like there's something about them
that's right.
So it's so fascinating. So it's a lot like you were talking about crypto, but the most recent thing NFTs.
It's crazy.
It's the same thing. And I can't find a place for me in the NFT world yet. And like, but it's so have you been keeping up with them in NFTs? It's very much the same. It's a collectible type of scenario. It's digital art. It's a digital product that you can take, you can hold, you can display, you can flip, you can set, like it's going to be worth more because somebody's going to promote. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah. And so what I understand, or what I'm learning more and more about it, I guess is it not even essentially the piece of art, but it's also the code that goes with the piece of art, like meaning when you bought into it. So like when you bought into it, maybe you were 00011 super early, but then like dude comes in a couple months later and he's like in the thousands.
Right. It's so it's like buying the second release of the sneaker instead of the original release, or literally, and you can't. There's no counterfeiting that.
Just to post the picture of the dog
or like, whatever it is.
Right. No,
this CryptoPunk.
Dude,
those CryptoPunks. Have you $500,000 for one of those things?
I'm so ignorant to it. I couldn't even begin to.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's the same thing though. It's in a digital format, and what Facebook is doing is very interesting.
Yeah. With
their whole metaverse. Are you familiar with some of this?
I've been getting lost into trying to catch up with it.
It's crazy. Yeah. So there's a big sort of a misconception. You know, everyone's like, oh, Facebook changed their name to Meta.
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. The holding company, Facebook, changed their name to Meta. Facebook will remain Facebook. Instagram will remain Instagram. WhatsApp, everything else now is just all owned by Meta.
Okay.
And they're building out this metaverse, which is really going to be like Internet 3.0.
Yep.
In like the next evolution of the internet, where everything's going to be sort of interconnected in their minds. Like what they're trying to build out is like interconnected with AR and VR and all these different things. And then all these NFTs that you buy will then be compatible within all these AR and VR worlds, where you bought this CryptoPunk and people can go through, you know, virtually through your office, and you've got a CryptoPunk on a wall and you've got all this stuff, but then you can, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
The same way that I've got weird knickknacks, you know, displayed in here.
Right.
That you're not going to see unless you come in here.
Correct.
Right. Or you're watching this video or whatever, but like this will be like public information and knowledge to like the world that you own this watch or this sneaker or this thing. Like it's so interesting.
Yeah, and it's terrifying because like,
well, everyone's trying to do it. So it's allowed the people that understand the NFTs. Everyone's trying to. It's like a gold rush, right? Everyone's trying to dig up their own gold on it and create some piece of art or some sort of thing. And I think art is kind of like the first part of this. And I think it's going to scale beyond these little icons and figures. It's going to be really interesting because even the other day, so this is another thing, you know, about like Facebook and the metaverse and all these things that they're doing. And I was listening to Gary Vee and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And it clicked even more then. And then the next day it happened. It was unbelievable. So Gary says, well, think about these kids playing Minecraft and all these things. Like when you go into an app and you buy the skin for Minecraft because you want it to look a certain way, that's it. It's stuck in Minecraft. You can't take it out of there. Minecraft, the app, no one cares about it anymore. Like you spent your $12 or whatever it is, 99 cents on this skin for the game.
Yeah.
And then it's there. Well, then in this metaverse, like you'd be able to transfer that thing to the next thing.
Right.
And it's sort of compatible across the metaverse, right? Any platform is cross compatible. Well, then the next day, and then I was talking to my wife and I was explaining her, she's like, what's up with all this NFT stuff? So I kind of go on this similar tangent to this, telling her about it. And then like that night or the next day, my daughter's like, Daddy, look at my Minecraft thing. We're going to have a wedding, you know? And I was like, boom. I'm like, Brandy, listen to that. In an NFT type scenario, the metaverse, she could have bought a wedding dress or a flowers or a picture or a thing to have in this wedding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then would carry over. And then she's like, and then you start to think like, holy shit. And then they could pass that down. Like, it's weird to think about.
Right.
And there was another podcast I was listening to, Ben Shapiro and Joe Rogan. Were talking about this. I think that was who it was. And Joe Rogan was talking about the metaverse and talking about how weird, like, do you think people are going to live in this, like with these goggles on and these VR, AR type worlds and like, this is going to be normal? because like this is crazy.
Like some
you know,
sim stuff.
it's weird, right? It
Mhm.
sounds bizarre, but he goes, Ben Shapiro goes, oh, absolutely. And you're like, how do you so much conviction about? Yeah, absolutely, this is going to happen. And he's like, think about these kids, my kids, your kids, who are growing up playing on an iPad in these virtual worlds right now,
Right.
playing Minecraft and Fortnite and da 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 da.
And
you don't think that that's going to start to translate to? Well, of course I do it in my goggles, and of course it's a glasses, a wearable that has that's how it's normal to them. It's weird to them that it's not that way. So like as these generations get older and now they're the ones progressing the technology and creating and developing, of course it's going to happen.
It is terrifying.
You don't have to agree with it. I don't particularly like it or think it's the best thing.
Yeah, but
that's like it's like a foregone conclusion. It's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the way that I could imagine there being a long-term value to it. If it's something where you're living in the moment, the lifestyle of it, not like, okay, oh well, I invest in this picture of this dog. Like, how long is that value going to be there? That's what I would argue because I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But in that sense, like, yeah, if I'm playing Clash of Clans and I can spend $4.99 to get a bag of jewels and upgrade my stuff, it makes a ton of sense. And like you said, in the digital world, people that are literally at their house just doing this stuff, I can see how they'll make so much money. But
they can. Now, a lot of people are going to spend a lot of effort and energy in trying to sell it to make money and da-da-da. A lot of it, I think, isn't going to, it's going to be like sneakers. I mean, it took a long time for sneakers to get sort of mainstream, let's call it. And even still, it's like a very sort of niche. People still don't understand. They're like, what?
Yeah, so much of this stuff does terrify me because I'm very ignorant to it, but I know that I'm very ignorant to it because I haven't put enough time and effort in
researching.
Because I know that I'm not interested. That's for me. So what fears me is, how many people who will never be educated to it and don't even have the money to invest into it, they're just gonna miss it altogether. They're gonna.
Well, it's not even like investment like stocks. It's going to become like discretionary income, like the way people buy sneakers because they like the sneaker and they spend $200 on it, even though they could have got it 2 weeks ago for 150.
Correct.
They're like, I just like this. I like it. I want to buy it. I like this watch. I want to own it. This car, like they figure it out. Like if they want it, they're going to buy it, kind of thing. It's discretionary. It's just like whatever, like no one needs to buy it. It's not quite the same. Like some of it I think could be an investment, like your, like sneakers, where you're like, yo, if I can get this on release date tomorrow, it's worth 6 times as much.
Yeah.
Like some of that, depending on the artist, depending on the availability, depending on who it's connected to and associated with. And I think those are the ones that are having the most success, are the ones that are associated with celebrities already. Or if there's some current artist that is now putting out a NFT project, right? Like they're I don't know. I mean, think about DJs. Like you look at like Deadmau5 or any of those guys, and then like suddenly he's got a NFT project of these digital things of his head that do like whatever. It's like people are gonna pay a lot of money for that because of who it is.
Yeah.
If you did it, no one would ever see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna make $3.
2 people would see it and they'd be like, "What is this crap?"
Yeah.
So it's very much and baseball cards, same thing, right? It's like sneakers, baseball cards, is NFTs is like the next evolution of that, and I'm trying to learn more about it. And it doesn't, honestly, I have zero personal interest in it, but I don't want to be caught off guard because I'm not interested and I'm not researching it.
Right.
I'm not like, I'm in business. My business like revolves around communication with the world. You know what I mean? And I have other brand ideas and other things I want to get into. So I'm always trying to like stay on top of like, what's the latest, greatest, newest. It's early. Yeah. It's early. So I'm still trying to learn too. And even some of what I said could be incorrect information, to be honest. Like I'm still learning too, but I've started in the last couple of weeks really paying more and more attention and trying to educate myself because I'm sure, you never know.
I'm sure in the comment section you're going to see a bunch of
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I hope someone corrects
information like, hey guys.
Yeah.
This is how it is.
Yeah.
No, man, that stuff just scares me. I'm a tangible guy. I like hard.
That's the our generation.
Yeah, just objects. And the thing about sneakers too, even for us, like you said, I'm thinking bigger picture. It's much more about just selling shoes. But in this current moment, when someone comes into the store and they see the price of a specific sneaker, that price of that sneaker has to reflect, one, what the market says it's worth at the moment. And 2, it has to reflect the the percent that I need to see in a return in order for it to make sense for any of this, right? And so I need to start polling my customers and figuring out
polling them, just like surveying, basically.
Yeah.
Questioning.
Like how many out of 10, how many people are attempting to resell the item that we're reselling anyways, or how many people are actually wanting to buy this shoe because they want to wear it, and at this point, I would say most people are trying to make money, which I get it, and with what we do, with the concept of buying, selling, and trading, it can be difficult. And so yeah, like talking about what you said, NFTs and Bitcoin, stuff like that, like this is just, it's tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wear all my shoes, if you wanted to know.
I do know that. And that's
although there's some that I haven't worn. And when I just moved recently, I was like packing up my closet, and I'm like, oh, there's another shoe box. I'm like, oh, there's shoes in here. Like, what's in here? Oh shit, I didn't know I had these. Oh, these walk the dog dunks or whatever. They're still wrapped in plastic for me. Like, I forgot.
Such a great shoe.
Like, I don't know, 6-8 pairs, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I had those.
And guaranteed that some of those have brought new value.
Oh, I'm sure, but I don't plan. Like, I really don't have any intention on reselling them. That wasn't my intention.
Right.
I just like them, and I wear like the chunky donkeys. I wear them.
Crazy.
Which most people are like, you what?
And of course, those have gone up as well. It's just nuts.
What are they worth now?
I mean, brand new, I'm seeing like 2,500. Yeah, it just depends on the size. It's just, it's awesome, man. It's cool.
Talk about you say that size varies with value. Yeah. Is it just like the common sizes are worth more money?
No, man.
The 9, 10, 11, 12.
It has changed. It's changed a lot. There was one point where like a size 7.5 to 9 was gold. And you could see it even on like a release day, like a Jordan 1 release day. You would see size 7, size 8, like $180 shoe being worth like $500.
Is that because there was more kids into it?
I don't think so. I think there's a couple things that I would speculate, but it would be probably rude for me to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think like smaller people, smaller stature, with more money, were able to obtain those specific shoes.
Interesting.
And maybe
so there's less of them in circulation because they bought them up, so the
correct
value goes
up.
up.
And then to be honest with you, like that meat and potatoes, like 9.5 to 11 was kind of like the mid market where you didn't see the significant return. And then when you get to size like 12 and 13, like size 13 shoes are like, it's like a gem. They truly are.
T-Dog wears those freaking water skis on his feet.
It's impossible to find a 13. And we get people in, we do get customers that are like, hey, where's your 13? And I point, I'm like, man, I've got like maybe
2.
Yeah, well, at this point, like maybe like 30 pairs to choose from. But it's pales in comparison. Yeah. And they get it. Like a size 13 to be like, know. Yeah, that's me, big dog. I can't find shoes. So yeah, it's nuts, man.
Let's open these guys up. What'd you bring me today?
Man, listen, everyone deserves a pair of dunks, even a newborn.
That's it. Classic, dude.
3C. Like, that's a great example of what's going nuts. These are just the basic dunk. This was, although it's a preschool, hopefully this fits your daughter for a little while. 3C, I can't imagine she
might be. That's a big girl.
Is she there already?
I don't know. We just put a pair of shoes on her for the first time the other day, and they were like these little slide-on things. But I mean, she got I don't even know if her cankles rolls will fit inside.
No,
she is so fat.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, just tell me to hold it up for the camera.
Yeah, so
see.
Imagine the adult size. So this is a Panda dunk, just a basic Nike dunk, which again, they were brilliant for bringing these regular dunks back. These things had been out for a long time, and then out of nowhere, they put these back into the market, and people have been going nuts for these.
You know what else is a shoe that's like stood the test of time?
What's that?
A white Air Force One.
Oh yeah, that's a real sneakerhead. People loyal to the soil is what I call them. Even though, well, now you can't even go to the mall. You cannot go to the mall and get an Air Force One because of how strong the resale market. But also,
it's crazy. It's like the most common. It's probably one of the most produced shoes ever up
correct.
There.
Yep. And if you had to ask me, I would argue all day that an Air Force should be available to anyone every day of the week. It should be in the mall, no matter what. Make them to where they're always available.
And the problem is you get these influencers wearing them and all these things. Like one, it's a pop. I don't own a pair. I could never own a pair. It's just it doesn't work for me.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
It's just not my thing. But my daughter, she's watching videos on TikTok. You got Charlie D'Amelio wearing white Air Force Ones, and then all of a sudden the next day we're in Orlando at the mall in Disney World. She's like, oh, I have to have some white Air Force Ones. I'm like, where the hell did that come from?
Isn't that nuts? It's crazy.
Because Charlie D'Amelio was wearing them.
Yes, literally just the power of social media.
It's unbelievable.
And we see that all the time. You see it all the time. Like, hey, do you happen to have those like black Cat 4s? Well, no, I don't. Where were you when I had 30 pairs of them? And we're only selling them for like, I don't know, 10% above what I paid because nobody wanted them. A black Cat 4 now is worth almost $800. When I first opened the Bluffton store, I gave one away for free.
Just to get rid of it.
Well, no. I try to, I like giving away shoes to people. I like to do it like once every other month. I think that everyone deserves a chance to get something for free. And it just, obviously that maybe that's a raffle or whatever the case, or maybe it helps because they spread the word and it helps our social media.
It's a good customer to give back.
Right.
It's
and that's a good example. Like people even message me because a lot of times people go deep into your Instagram and like swipe up and be like, hey, is this still available? And you're like, no, that was a year and a half ago. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I gave away a shoe that like I said, I could sell now for $800. So we could argue about inflation or whatever the case.
Well, it just depends on who was talking about it, who wore it, who was paying attention to what. It's so interesting.
And like these Dunks, it is such a basic shoe. Some of them are made with better quality. So the men's version of this, the Panda, I believe is a really, really good shoe. Like the way it's subtle and it's black and white like that.
When you say it's a good shoe, let's talk about that. Some of these are produced differently. Like it's like people who maybe aren't into sneakers, when you pick up one sneaker or the next sneaker, they're very similar. It's the same. It's the two Jordan ones.
Yeah.
This one is this one. This one is this colorway, whatever. Like when they use different materials, when the quality of the shoe, it just feels different.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
So I guess my best example would be if for the viewers, if they're not familiar with shoes and they want to go do a little bit of research, I would look up the Jordan 1 shattered backboard, right? It's an orange and off-white kind of it's just a Jordan 1. I think for the most part everyone can understand what a Jordan 1 is. That specific shoe was never intended to shock the world. It was never intended to be like a crazy good shoe. And in fact, I remember, people, real OG like sneakerheads will tell you like that was a shoe that sat for a little while. Well, what happened is enough people got a hold of these things and were like, I don't know what you guys aren't seeing, but this is literally some of the best materials, best leather that they've ever used. And then so people were like, really? And then they go out and buy it and then they take it home and they're like, you know what? This really is
nice. Yeah.
It's crazy good leather and it's built really well. And now, of course, because of that, Shattered Backboard 1.0, the original is again probably worth almost $2,000 depending on the size. So you can tell when Nike and Jordan Brand kind of cuts the corners and they use kind of a more basic leather.
If they think it's going to be more of a high volume shoe that they're just pumping through Foot Lockers.
Correct.
And they're just basic, whatever.
And then
but when it's a collaboration shoe, it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah,
to detail. Yeah,
and they're playing on that too now because you can see they've done more collaborations in the past couple of years than has ever been done
with all kinds of athletes and singers and people. Like, who were some of the oddest collaborations you think? They have like things you just didn't see. You're like, really?
Oh, like
I mean, everybody gets collaborate, like race car drivers and this and that. And
I like last year, I still don't understand why. When we talk about getting to do a collaboration and someone who gets to do a collaboration with a Jordan 1, in my opinion, that should be like super high.
Right.
And then you get people that like J Balvin got to do a Jordan 1. And maybe there's a lot I'm missing about J Balvin. Maybe I'm uneducated with his stature, where he's from. But you've got to be pretty top notch, in my opinion, to get a Jordan 1. And then not only was he allowed to do a Jordan 1, they took it to the extreme. Again, for the viewers, if you go look up a J Balvin Jordan 1, you can tell that Nike and Jordan gave him or his designers full autonomy to do whatever they wanted to the shoe. And so, for me as a sneakerhead, I don't exactly love seeing specific collabs that get broken down and kind of takes away from what that shoe is.
Right.
But again, I'm not on the marketing team. I don't know what goes.
Yeah. What's up with Off-White these days? Are they is that still
Dude, so strong, man. It's crazy the power that Virgil has. I mean, it doesn't look like it's gonna stop. It's nuts.
I figured that would have been like a wave or a trend or something that was like that bubble popped, but I guess not. I haven't paid attention. I've been so busy with everything else.
I would have guessed the same thing, but it's funny because like the basic
he broke so many rules. I think when it comes to some of that stuff
Right.
where he the guy's brilliant.
It's crazy.
He's a guy like Virgil comes out with an NFT project, game over.
It's done. And
you know what I'm saying? Like that's what comes to my mind. Like somebody who has that much notoriety for their art.
And it's gonna happen. Kanye West, he'll have it.
Mm-hmm. That was the next person I want to talk about.
Absolutely.
But Off-White just crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Has he come out? What's the most? I saw he do another pair of dunks recently or something.
He did 50 dunks.
50 different versions.
Yes.
Jeez.
So he's riding the wave also, and he's already done prior to this last release that we're talking about. He had already done a few dunks that did incredibly well. As they've held their position at like an $800, $900 shoe. But then they said, okay, hey, you can do another dunk. So he does a dunk, right? And he gets one platform, one silhouette of a regular Nike dunk, and spins it 50 different ways.
It's crazy
So we're talking just one hint of a different color here, one different shoelace, maybe fuzzy leather, yeah. And he puts out 50 of them, and on each corner it says what number they are. So we'll say like 1 of 50, 23 of 50.
Similar to those Air Force Ones you had that said that. What did they say on? They said on the sole they were. Oh, it said not for sale.
Yeah. Not for sale. The Jordans.
Sort of similar vibe though, where it was written on the sole.
Correct. And even paying attention to social media and resellers and sneakerheads saying like, oh, what are they doing? He's just flooding the market. Like these are gonna plummet. And it's not. It was a $160 shoe retail that has held once again right at that $500 to $700 range. So it's nuts. And what helps or hurts the market is that now platforms like GOAT and StockX that I mentioned, they're just so strong. They're the go-to for everyone to see what that shoe truly is worth. And it creates that ability to see, well, am I paying a fair market value for this shoe that's here in my hand now that I could get and go home and lace it up and be perfectly happy with? Or should I just go home and think about it, and if I really want it, order it online and wait 3 weeks for it to come?
That's the worst part.
Well, that's it. So it's nuts, man. The whole thing is
talking about Kanye for a second, kind of up there. I just like shoes. I don't really follow a lot of the back stuff. What's up with Kanye these days? Yeezy still freaking just killing it. I know his goal was to be able to make like shoes obtainable for anybody that weren't stupid high priced or whatever, but that's inevitable to happen with somebody like him behind it.
Well,
is that right?
Yeah, he had said that was a goal of his for him to. He does say that. I don't know if he sticks by it, but I take him for what he's saying is that he does think that there should be enough of a release that anyone should have the opportunity to get it. And I understand that, but you can make like this winter when they're making the retro, because they do a Jordan 11 every Christmas season.
Oh, really?
So they're bringing back the cool gray 11s, which they've only been retroed I think 2 times. MJ wore them in 2001 when he played for the Washington Wizards. Then they did it again in 2011, and then now 10 years later, 2021. From what I've read, they're making well over 1 million of them, which is that's a ton of sneakers. It's a lot.
In some of these releases that are more limited, how many shoes are they making? Do you know?
I guess a good example I would say.
And this is worldwide market, right?
Yeah. Again, Virgil just got a chance to do a Jordan 2 low, which everyone was like, again, he's lost it. Nobody's gonna want this. It's a Jordan 2.
Dude, I like the 2s.
The 2.
You can't find a 2.
No. And nobody's wearing them, but now all of a sudden people are
Virgil's going to make them cool. And anybody that has a 2 from 10 years ago or from 30 years ago,
correct?
Suddenly it's going to be worth a bunch of money.
And that's what he did. So the crazy thing, and this might be the one that he just released, could very well end up getting to a value as high as like you see the Off-White Jordan 1 Chicago, for example, because he made it to where there is a lot of nostalgia built into it. He took the silhouette of an actual 2 that that Jordan would have won, and the way that 2 fell apart, like for most people who had a 2 from 20, 30 years ago, the sole has cracked, has fallen apart. He designed that shoe to look exactly like that shoe. So the Jordan 2 low, off-white, white one, Chicago one, looks as if it's falling apart.
Right.
And it's nuts. And I love every single thing about it. And again, now that one is almost close to about $1,000 in kind of value.
I'm a big fan of the deconstructed,
which is nuts. Which is why, like, dude, where did this guy Virgil come from? When, as a society, we had kind of written off like the whole concept of a bootlegger. You know, in the early 2000s, when everyone was doing like the fake Louis Vuitton collaborations, where they were just, you know, using fake materials. Well, now all of a sudden people are doing these customs with actual real Louis Vuitton stuff, making belts, making shoes out of like real handbags and stuff. And it's nuts, and people are dying for it.
It's crazy, man. It's so wild.
It's the world we live in. It's
the
fun.
Jordan 2 I like. I'm a big Blazer fan.
Yeah.
So it's like a hybrid, like Jordan 1 Blazer, like.
Well, it's definitely like a sneaker. You know.
It's cool. Yeah. I remember looking for a pair of those at one point and couldn't find any that like spoke, that was like, I'm always looking for weird stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
you're kind of that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm
quirky.
Weird.
Well, just to talk, like, I can't predict anything. I don't know anything. What I'm doing is not rocket science. I'm just trying to provide a service and still pay, you know, to feed my family on
support your family
on my terms this time.
That's right.
So when people say like, what is it about Jordan? And I say, yes, you know, Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, and I probably will say that until I die. There are plenty of fantastic basketball players now, Kevin Durant, LeBron James. I understand everyone's argument. The difference between Michael Jordan and them is not only was he one of the greatest basketball players, he played in a shoe that people are still wearing on the streets 30 years later.
They just had staying power. I mean, the guys,
but
he paved the way. You know what I mean?
Easily. And Tinker as a creator is just brilliant. The Jordan 1, you know, everyone has a Jordan 1. A Jordan 4, like, to think that Michael Jordan played a whole game wearing a Jordan 4, and I wear that sucker with jeans and a t-shirt 3 days a week, and it blows my mind. And I will probably forever. I literally love everything about a Jordan 4, and is that your
favorite shoe? Like, if you had one,
yeah. I think it's the best silhouette ever made. It's just, I see it and it just does it for me.
It's funny.
Yeah.
One last person I want to talk about.
Yeah. Let's go.
Tom Sachs. Dude, that guy. Listen, I remember coming to your store. You had the moon boot.
Yeah.
You kept a pair for yourself. You cut them up.
I did.
I didn't know anything about them. Right. I'm like the sneaker guy that doesn't know anything about what's going on.
Yeah.
I just like what I see and I buy them. Like, that's just how I roll.
Yeah.
I don't have time to consume who's who and what's what. I'm like, oh, those are sick. Like, you guys got Sparger. You're like, oh, you gotta get on these. And I'm like, no, I'm just like, if they're at the store when I go to see Penny, like, I'll get them.
That's it.
You know, like, I don't have time for that. I got too much going on. So anyways, I just like what I like, and I will grab what I like and whatever. So anyways, I come to your store one day and you're like, yo, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And you're like, you don't know about this? You know?
It's so condescending. I know.
No.
Oh, where have you been?
But it was such a big deal. Now I get it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, the first ones, what are they called again? The
Mars Yard.
Yeah.
But the thing is most people, like non-sneakerheads, don't even know what that Mars Yard is.
No clue. Right. I didn't either. God. Right. And it's such a subtle shoe. It's just like a tan leather, like looking
perfect.
If you understand Tom Sachs, you have to understand the guy behind it.
Yeah.
Right. So like one day I knew the value of those shoes. They were like $3,000 or something.
Right.
And I'm watching, what's his face from Mythbusters?
I'm terrible with those.
Yeah, Adam Savage on Mythbusters, right? And he's in his little workshop and he's building stuff and he's wearing Mars Yards and, like, you know, some expensive watch. And he's Adam Savage, right?
Right.
He's brilliant in his own ways, but he's like holding stuff, spray painting it with his like $10,000 watch on. He's wearing Mars Yard $3,000 sneakers in this shop and all this stuff. I'm like, what is this guy doing with these Mars Yard sneakers on? I'm like, I still didn't understand who Tom Sachs was, right? So it didn't make any sense to me. And then Casey Neistat, the YouTuber, you know who Casey is?
A little bit.
He introduces his brother Van on YouTube. His brother is like a crazy, brilliant, like sort of artist maker kind of guy, who worked with and for Tom Sachs for years. Made all his videos, made all these like weird, quirky moon, the NASA, you know, space station stuff that they did,
and it's
like,
all related to that.
It's all like, so his brother was part of all that, like curate, like helped maintain it, shot all the videos for it, traveled the world, So then I become familiar with Tom Sachs through Van Neistat, and I'm like, oh, that's the Tom Sachs guy.
Yep.
You know, so I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like his style is so much like Casey Neistat and this very handmade creations that have like a thumbprint on it. Like it's not perfect on purpose.
Yeah.
He wants you to see the cuts. He wants you to see the screws. He wants you to see how it was built. And he's like obsessed with space and NASA. He did this whole like NASA, what would you call it? Like a recreation. It's an experience. Like people can come in and it feels like you're, I don't know. You just have to
like on the moon, right?
Yeah. It's like you take a space shuttle to the moon. They got all these cameras and they're it's like simulation, right?
Yep.
But it's like this, it's like art that you can use. There's a word for that and I'm an idiot, so I don't know. But it's like
NFT.
Practical art, you know? No. But it's like, like he created this art, but it was like a simulation of going to space. So you like experience it. And anyways, it's really neat.
Sounds cool.
It's super rad. And the fact that you're not familiar with it blows my mind.
Maybe I am. I might be missing out a little bit.
The guy's like so
brilliant, right?
Brilliant in that artistic way that you're like, oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Which makes now the Mars Yard shoe makes sense to me. The colors of it, because he has this whole like color guide video of like, I only use this color, and this color, blah, blah, blah. But then when the moon boot thing came out and underneath it, like you had to cut it away and underneath it was the Mars Yard. Yeah. It's slightly different color. But they changed the sole color.
Well, the outer sole, is like a hint of blue, which I'm assuming that was done for, on purpose.
But then the whole moon thing just made, and the Mars and all stuff just made perfect sense to me at that point, and it clicked. And then I was like, damn it, now I want a pair of these.
And well, they did.
I didn't care until I knew who the guy was.
Then they did such a good job of not purposely releasing that. So then like it's almost like if you were rewarded for taking a chance on buying that from them, because then when you got it and you opened it, or like you lifted open the boot, and inside you're like, holy shit, that's
the Mars Yard.
That's my grail shoe that I'll never be able to afford until I'm 40.
So here's what's funny about that shoe for everybody listening. It's got this, it looks like a moon boot. It's this big baggy thing that you would like put on. It goes up over your leg and all this stuff. And it's really funky looking. Yeah. Like it's really bizarre when you look at it like that. But then if you got the big enough balls to cut the the moon boot part off of it.
All of it. Yeah. It's a mess.
Then you like the shoe is under it. It's
crazy.
Really pretty cool. And you did that.
I did it.
Did you do it to both shoes or just one?
I did it to both, and I wore the crap out of them. And,
did you?
Yeah, and then someone saw them and was like, typical sneakerhead. Someone saw them and was like, hey man, I know you're a 12. You trying to sell those? And I was like, what are we talking? And then it made sense. I said, you know what? I've had my time, and I let them go. I do that to personal shoes all the freaking time.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, it's I mean, I love what I'm doing. I think it's a really good business. I think that, again, I'm trying to create, something bigger. I'm trying to do it on my own terms. Ben and I, we are running the Savannah store. We've got employees at both stores. It feels really good now that we're able to pay ourselves. We're able to pay employees, and hopefully just grow.
Yeah. Trav, chime in. You just sent me a text.
So, I just Googled the Mars Yard. So I have no idea what these are. I wear Converse,
Okay,
so.
That's not, you got a couple pairs of dunks. He's got the Golf.
Yeah.
Porsche orange and blue Golf dunks.
Yeah. Well,
and the pink pigs.
He had messaged me and I just couldn't fulfill.
Well, it's 13s. I mean, it's, again, it's the size 13 thing. I mean, it's impossible.
Hey, so he caught the bug a little bit.
I'm trying, but I'm very particular, and I like very just simple, clean. Like I got the Porsche dunks because Porsche stuff, and that's just who I am. But so I look up these Mars Yards. I just Googled them. StockX, size 13, 12 grand.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Tell me.
I feel poor about that because I don't know. I don't understand.
Craziest, mind blowing.
How
what?
It hurts my brain more than NFTs right now. because I don't know who buys these. Like who has $12,000 to just throw at a pair of shoes?
So were you looking at there's a 1.0, which is the original, and there's a 2.0,
which is the 1.0.
So yeah, the 1.0, yeah, $12,000. But what should make you sick is if you look at that bottom left corner and it says last sale was $2,500. If I see that any day, isn't that nuts? That someone
let it go for that.
Let it go for $2,500, and now you've got someone willing to pay real money, willing to pay $5,600 for a size 13.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's wild. Another crazy valued shoe, the Back to the Future.
Oh yeah,
what is that called?
The
self-lacing,
yeah,
like the ones that from the movie Back to the Future, where Marty McFly puts it on, hits the button, self-laces all that stuff. Yeah, you can buy.
It's called the mag.
The mag.
Mm-hmm.
They're like $100,000, right?
Yeah, size 12. I can get one for $50,000. Last sale was $15,000.
I saw some of those at Urban Necessities in Vegas, and I was like, yo,
and that's
so cool.
And that was another one that was like, sweet what you're doing, and then the people who got them.
Yeah, you put it in a movie that becomes like an all-time movie, and all of a sudden.
Well, they redid them and released them on that year. I could not tell you. 2011. So 2011. That one.
They did a re-release in 2011.
Yeah. And it's worth $50,000. You can't argue it.
I mean, I've seen some of that stuff with, the whole insurgence of the 90s and everything coming back, all, 80s, 90s retro, Radwood and all that.
Yeah.
There's some of those guys that have those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That have worn them to the shows.
There's guys that are now in their, mid to late 30s who grew up with that stuff, who have some money.
Yep.
And they're like, it's nostalgic. Dude, people will spend money to feel like a kid. You know what I mean? To like relive something, people will spend so much money to relive. And it's crazy.
And for my point, my position now, we have not grown tremendously, but I've what I believe is a pretty comfortable platform. So if I gain any insight information, I do believe in putting it out to the public, because I do believe that anyone deserves the chance to potentially obtain a specific shoe on a release. And I tell people, like, if you're not doing it on a Saturday at 10 o'clock, just even, on a smaller level through like the Nike app or through an app where like there's a draw or a release, if you're not doing it, you're costing yourself. There's a chance that you do hit on a shoe that costs $100 and it's $1,000 shoe. You just don't know. So, like I said, I'll put it out there. If I can find out that a shoe is releasing, I try to let everyone know, because again, I think that everyone deserves a chance to get something. And at the end of the day, I hope that the people that do hit, whether it's in the city or who just follow us, that they'll end up selling it to us anyways. So either way, we're going to touch a bunch of pairs. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
My man.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for coming. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Listen, Penny Kix, we have a store in Bluffton, South Carolina, another store in Savannah, Georgia. Of course, we are on Instagram. Please find us at Penny Kix, Kix, and Penny Kix, SAV. Of course, we're on Google.
Website is pennykix.com.
Yep.
With Kix.
Kix.
Shirt.
Yeah.
We'll put links in the description
below. We were Marines. You know how that goes.
We can't spell.
Yeah, eat crayons, all that.
Oh, speaking of crayons, have you seen these?
Oh, that's dope.
I just handed this up if you're just listening. I just handed an AR-15 magazine that's got crayons printed on the. There's no
way they would allow this.
How funny is that?
In combat. I think NATO would have an issue with this. Listen, man, thank you for having me. I love you.
Appreciate your service and everything you've done for us. And I'll be in soon. I need to come see the Savannah store because I haven't done that yet.
We'll get you hooked up.
I feel bad.
No.
Thanks for the gifts. I appreciate it. Guys, thank you for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave your ratings, comments, reviews, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.